Right, so I want to run you through some of the basics around taking total control of the direction of your practice. And I'm going to run you through one of the basic things, which I believe if you don't have this in your practice, you're always going to be guessing. If you don't have this, you're going to show up to work each day and never feel clear on what it is you're actually trying to achieve. This is one of the steps that I take practice owners through right at the start, something that at Optimize Health we've got in our practice too. So I'm going to share that with you now. But let me first ask you a question. If you were to build your dream house, let's say you've got a plot of land and you wanted to build your dream house, who's the first person you hire? The first person you hire isn't the builder. The first person you hire is an architect. But because before we turn up on site and start laying bricks, we've got to know what it is we're trying to build. And so if we did just show up every day, day one, going, right, okay, we got motivation. Yep, great, check. You know, we've got desire, we've got drive, we've got passion. Fantastic. We've got all these things. Fantastic. Right. Well, what the hell are we building? I don't know. But if we just work hard and we just keep laying bricks, then surely one day we'll have, you know, we'll end up with the perfect practice. We'll end up with the very thing we really want, right? I think that's an exceptionally painful way of hoping and guessing your way to success. If you turn up on a building site every day and start laying bricks for your dream house, you're going to end up with a mess. You first got to plan it. So this is the image that we use to sort of trigger that. And we want to get you into what we call the architect mindset, because the first person you hire is not a builder, it's an architect. And so it's the same for your healthcare practice. Don't magically think that, oh, if I just keep working one day, everything's going to work out really well. Let's first decide what it is that you want. If another way I explain it is if Santa sent an elf, and an elf came to you and said, hey, Santa sent me, and this elf's got L plates on, by the way. So an elf in learning. And he said, Santa sent me, and he said, look, because I'm an elf in training, I can't give you what you want for this Christmas. I need at least 12 months, all right? So he sent me now to ask you, what would you like for Christmas? Like if he could deliver you your ideal practice, in your practice, your healthcare practice could be exactly what it would. What would that look like? And you reply and you go, I don't know, more successful, more money, I don't know, more patience. That's just not clear enough. It's not clear enough for Santa to be able to give you what you want. So Santa sends the elf back and he goes, look, I need something far clearer than this. You've got to ask this person specifically what they want their practice to look like. And he arms the elf with this little bit of paper, and I'm going to share it with you now. And this is like what I call the vision creator. So let's come over here. Let's just do this. And what this is, I'm going to fill this out with you now. But this will put on paper what you want your practice to look like, and then what it is now, where you want it in 12 months, where you want it 3 to 5 years. We always create two-part vision. We create a longer-term vision, and then we create 12 months. 12 months is really what we can action on now and what we're actively trying to build. 3 to 5 years is what we're heading towards. Yeah. Now, so if you look on the right, this is where we start capturing in numbers what a vision for a practice is going to look like. But what's important to understand, let me just show you in here. Look, when we go through the process of setting up a practice, and we want ideally, right? We want a highly respected, we want a high performing, highly profitable practice that can work without your daily input. That's the good journey we're going on. The goal is to end up building a business, not a job. We need to build an entity that can ultimately work without your daily input, so that one day we don't reach burnout and realize that there's nothing to sell because the business is just you. And so you can't retire. Retirement's just a pipe dream. And, you know, maybe your hands are hurting from treating people and you're trapped. That's what we want to avoid. So we want to start moving towards actually building a business rather than having a job. And there are 5 P's that make up the model of a practice. And we're going to make some decisions about them up front. And the decisions we make about what vehicle or what model we want to go on the journey in will totally determine what destination we're able to get to. For example, if you have a one-room property, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just going to be really hard to build a business, right? Because we can only ever have one person treating, which means we're limited by that. So the property we choose is a big part of it. The people, meaning, do we have employees? Do we have associates? Or do we rent out a room? Are they full-time? Are they part-time? Do we employ them? You know, so many decisions we've got to make around people, because like a one room, just as an extreme example, a one room practice with a couple of associates is a totally different business model to a 3 or 5 room practice with employed practitioners. They are night and day different, and I will get you to totally different destinations. They have totally different values to the business as well, as in financial value to a practice. Then we've got to decide what products we have, how much we charge, and within pricing is also how long we do those appointments for. And then we're going to decide what type of patients we ideally want to niche towards, looking towards. So that's why we've got to understand the 5 Ps that make up our practice if we want to be able to clearly articulate a vision. So let's imagine this, right? I'm just going to walk you through these. So look at how many clinical rooms we have. I'm just going to go that was 3 clinical rooms in one site. If yours is different, really doesn't matter. Just understand how to use this. Understand how these are the simplest factors that you have to get clear on to be able to create a clear vision for where you want your business to go. So you might be in a 1-room clinic now, but you might go in 3 to 5 years, I want to be a 3-room clinic or a 5-room clinic, or I want to be a 1-room clinic, or I want to be a 5-room clinic, whatever it might be. We then go, how many humans do we have in admin? So let's say we've got 2 humans and they do the equivalent of 1 full-time, because we can have 2 humans, but they do part-time each. So that's 2. That's the equivalent of 1 full-time. And then we do the same with the clinical team. And let's say we've got 2 clinical team, but again, they are the equivalent of 1 full-time. You know, I've worked with people before where they start listing off the amount of practitioners they have. I'm like, hey, there's like 6 or 7 people. But then what we realize is they're associates, and or a couple of them work like 2 hours on a Tuesday. One of them does half a Saturday every other month. And so what we end up with this overly complex business model with 15 people involved. But when we actually bring it back down to what are the full-time equivalents, we realize that maybe it's only the equivalent of 2 full-timers. Well, you know what? For simplicity, and I like simplicity, the easiest way to have to fill a couple of rooms is to have 2 full-timers rather than having 15 people who all do like an hour here and there. So again, these are conscious decisions we've got to make about the model. We've got to make about the model that you have. And then how much of the turnover is generated by you? And often this starts really high, or even 100%. Now, below here as well, when we start doing this, we've got to start with our current reality. A great leader always assesses their current reality. So these numbers exist. They don't lie, they exist. We go, how many appointments do we see each month? And if you want to, you just got to look into your practice management software, go back the last 6 months, take an average, or just look at the last month. And we can say, look, we saw 160 patients at an average spend of £40, for example. I'm just making it up. So now we have some numbers, and numbers have no emotion. Number is just data. Number is just information. And when we have information, we can make informed decisions about what we want to do with our practice. And we can actually see this is the truth about the current reality of your business. So already we might go, well, where do we want to improve here? I've got 3 rooms, but I actually only have the equivalent of 1 full-time. So there's opportunity there. We might also look at something like this and go, that's a lot of appointments to see to only generate 6,400. Because remember, with money, it's not what we make, it's what we keep. This is turnover, not profit. By the time we've paid all our bills, with an average spend like this, there's probably not going to be any profit left once we paid somebody. And just watch this as an example. If all we did was start charging properly, and I put £60 average spend in there, look at that. That's a huge jump in turnover from the same amount of work just by starting to charge appropriately, starting to charge properly, starting to charge at a level at which the numbers, the maths, make sense, because the maths has no emotion. The math either works or it doesn't. I could start selling gold Rolexes that are diamond encrusted for £100, and I might sell a load and have amazing turnover, but obviously there'd be absolutely no profit in it. I'd be losing money. So again, that turnover is for vanity, profit is for sanity, and we need to stop taking the emotional decisions about our pricing and our timings and start going, hang on, at what point does the numbers work? Because there is a point at which they just do not work. If you charge too little, by the time you've paid everything, there'll be nothing left at the end, or you're going to have to treat just to fund the rest of the business. So the pricing of the products is an essential piece to this. So the process that we look at is if we could click our fingers, wave a magic wand, or send our wish list to an elf, where would you like your business to be in 12 months? You've got to be able to answer that question now, because otherwise you're turning up on a building site every day and just laying bricks, hoping that something really beautiful is going to come. And it's not. All right. We're not going to get to our perfect practice by accident. So we go, okay, well, look, I've got 3 rooms in one site. Now I wonder, if I didn't really change my admin team, but let's say I started and I had 2 full-timers now. And if I actually reduced my time and I looked at, okay, if I start doing 30-minute appointments rather than 40-minute appointments, like how many patients a week should a full-timer see? Well, I think like a full-timer can do 10 patients in a day comfortably, 10 30-minute appointments. That's 50 a week. So one full-timer, we normally say, can do, if they're doing well, can see a couple of 100 patients a week if it's general care. And they're 30-minute appointments. And you might need to adjust this for your healthcare practice. I'm not saying this is perfect for your practice. I'm just saying you've got to understand the numbers that drive this so that we can create a vision. So 200 appointments per practitioner. And now we've got 2 of them. So this practice could see that. And again, if we got our pricing right, or started to get it right, this is the same property, remember, 3 rooms, 1 site. With some change in personnel, now we have full-time equivalent, we had 1 full-time equivalent, we've now got full-time equivalent. We made some changes to our pricing and our timing, so we're now charging appropriately. And we worked on our marketing, or we just took advantage of the waiting list that many of you have. And we realized that 2 full-timers should really be serving about 400 patients if it's just sort of a general care thing. That's a very different scenario, 24 grand to 6,400. And then again, let's look to the future. And I always recommend with this one, the question is, what would our practice look like if it was fully optimized? So a 3-room practice, we probably need a little bit more admin support. Let's even go as a luxury and say 2 full-time admin, which you don't really need normally for a 3-room practice with only the equivalent of 3 full-timers. So fastest way to fill a 3-room property is 3 full-timers. But let's say in here we've got 4 people because the owner's working a day or 2, and then we've got somebody else stepping in for like 4 days or something like that. Revenue by the owner hopefully now is way smaller, so you can actually take holidays. 200 patients a month per room. So there are 3 rooms. So now we're going to look at 600. Let's get our pricing properly dialed in. So you see how like a 3-room practice now, if we understand about getting the right people in place, then we just say, okay, now how many patients do we need to fill those people? And now what do we need to charge, and how long do those appointments need to be to optimize what we've got? then we simply say a 3-room practice with 3 full-timers, or the equivalent of 3 full-timers, serving 600 patients a month at an average spend of 65 is 39k turnover. I've worked with loads of practices like this, loads. I've worked with a 2-room practice that generates 40k a month, 3-room practices that generate over 50k a month. And again, remember, that's turnover, not profit. So we need to build that level of turnover, because once we've paid people well, we've paid for our rent, we've paid for our other costs, we've paid for our admin support, we've paid all the bills. You know, we want to be having 20%. We want to be having at least 20% left. I'm going to show you this. Got to see this. There we go. Like I say, numbers have no emotion. The numbers either work in a healthcare practice or they don't. For every £100 that comes into our healthcare practice, that comes into your healthcare practice, you know, we've got to pay practitioners, right? And so we don't really want more than 40% of the turnover going to them, because then there are other costs involved, you know, for the electricity, there's the Wi-Fi, there's all of the subscriptions you have, there's all the kit you need, there are all the consumables you have. Then we've got to pay support salaries. We don't really want them being more than about 13%. Then we've got to pay rent as well. And after all that, we want to be left with 20% net profit. So again, a practice like this that's doing almost 40k a month, after you've been paid a salary, we want there to be about 8k, about 8,000 left. Not through greed, but half of that we need to put aside, £4,000. We need to put that aside into a treasure chest, so it builds security. We want to have a trampoline. We want to have a safety net. We want to have money in the bank, you know, ideally 6 figures in the bank to provide stability and security for the business, so that if anything ever happens, we've got money there. Your world changes when you've got money, security, right? Then there's a bad month, or, you know, like a break-even month, you're like, yeah, doesn't really matter. We don't, you know, like a tennis match, you don't need to win every game, you just need to win the set. So like a healthcare business, sometimes you have a bad month, doesn't really matter, but we don't want to be crying every time there's a bad month, because our margins are so tight, we've got no money in the bank. And remember, there's also tax after this as well. So although we're talking bigger numbers here, 40k a month, 400 grand a year, you know, by the time we've paid our practitioners properly, paid our other costs, support salaries and rent, we want 20% left. We're going to put half of that away as cash, and then and then we can take a dividend if we want, or we can reinvest it back in the practice. We can buy equipment, we can buy kits. So there, what you really need is a vision. I should be able to walk up to you and say, so tell me, this time next year, or Christmas next year, describe to me, what do you want your practice to look like? And like that, you should be able to say, well, what we're aiming for is we need to hire 1 more admin person. We need to hire 1 more admin person, and we need to hire 2 more full-timers over the next 12 months plus. And we want to get our appointment numbers up to 600 and an average spend of 65, so that we can have a monthly turnover of 39,000. Don't make it any more complicated than that. Keep it simple. But like they say, you can't kick a goal if you can't see the goal that's there. You can't hit the bullseye on a dartboard if you can't see the dartboard. You can't create a vision if you don't know what that vision is. You can't build a dream house if you haven't first spent some time deciding what you want to look like. So create yourself a clear vision, etch it into your brain, and go for it with everything you got.